I've found a lilac coral, brown and cream, and it was from Home Bargains. I think it was £1.75 per skein ball, and using a 4mm hook, and I've used 2 in each colour. How I measure my cardigan is I'll measure from the shoulder down to the waist and then double it, because I make my cardigans as a fold over. So one panel will be large and long, and then it'll fold over, so it makes that like similar to a granny square. And then the back, I'll just put this back section in. So say this is the back, then I'll be doing this bit separate, and then I'll be adding the sleeves. And then when it all folds over, you'll see as we go along. Trust the process. So to begin, your first measurement's going to be this twice, and we're going to start from here and crochet all the way up and back and up and back. So working from side to side, and do the chain of 224. So just a normal chain using the size 4 hook, and we're going with the lilac to start with. $224. I'll do a few extra because I wanted to match the other side exact, and when we get to the end, if I've got a few chain over, I can just untie them from the other end, which I will show you. So row 1, we're going to double crochet into the 4th from the hook. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. I want to double crochet into that one, another once. So that is my first granny cluster. I'm going to skip 4, 1, 2, 3, skip 3 and into the 4th, do another granny cluster, 1 of 3, skip 3, 1, 2, 3, and in the 4th one, I'm not putting a chain in between. I'm going straight into the next cluster because I don't want any big gaps, which there's going to be plenty of gaps as it is. So do that again. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Three into the same one, and we're going to do that all the way down to the end. I will meet you at the end. For my size, I'm doing 55 of the clusters, just so that you know when you're working along if you've got 55. We're up to our 55 cluster. So that's 55, and we've still got some chains left. I'm just going to check what I've done on the first one that I've done. Yep, so I've done the same there, and I've actually left like a little tail of 3. And I've done the cluster, I've left one and I've chained into the end because I didn't want to leave the row on a cluster. So I'm just going to yarn over and do a last double crochet into the end there. Okie dokie. And then what we can do is just unravel this. So I'm going to snip because I know it'll be a tiny little knot. And what you do is just unravel, but it's better to have too many than not enough. So maybe just snip there and unravel back to your stitch. It'll be fine, and then we can just sew them ends in at the end. So we're going to do 2 rows of your lilac lavender colour. So I'm just going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, because that's going to be part of the next row, and turn, and then into your first gap here we'll be doing our first granny cluster of 3. And then it's easy to go now because we're just going into your gaps of your clusters and putting your granny square cluster into all of your gaps all the way back down. So we'll do that on for this row, and then we'll change to the coral. When you come to the end of each row, you'll find a different place to put your last cluster in, and then pop a little 3 in, or just pop your 3 in there and make a chain. See, I'm just going to do 3 clusters there and then chain 3 and turn. It was a chain 4 and turn, and then I just went into the next gap and done a granny cluster again, and I'm going to work my way back down. So as long as you just try and keep this edge straight with your chain or a cluster or a chain or just a 1, it just keeps it straight, and you have the same amount of clusters going up the side. So you want to be making 2 lilac, 4 coral, a brown, a cream, a brown, a cream, a brown. That's your pattern. The start again, 2 lilac, and then we're back in towards the middle, because remember I'm making this in a different way. So I'm going to be having 2 pieces the same.
Sleeves a 70 chain that makes 0.17 clusters.
I've now added some like a brown, the dark brown on either side, and because it matches the top of the sleeve. So when I've sewn up, I'm going to be sewing brown onto the brown so it doesn't show up as much. And because we're making it into a cardigan, I want an extra panel in the back. So we're just going to move this out, and I want about a 5-inch panel in the back. So as long as the front's the same, I'm going to join on at the back, just here, and I'm going to crochet in pattern until we get to the matching side of there. So that'll be enough to repeat. This is the side folded down where it's going to start to take shape. So I've just lined up the centre of the sleeve and the centre of the front and back panel because it's all in a one, and I've put a stitch marker in, so I've joined them up, and that's where they need to meet. And I'm going to sew across that seam, same on the other side, and then the back seam. So once they meet up, that'll be the 4 coral together. So it doesn't split the pattern up at all. It'll match. And hopefully, here we go. We've got the sleeves on. See what I mean about the brown at the edges? Makes it look so much better. So now we're just going to fold in half. So I'm going to take the top section and bring it down to the front. And that's the sleeve in half. So now we're going to sew along there and down to there. Excuse my toes. So we're going to do that on both sides. So that's the base of the main body of the cardigan's made. I've sewn it all together. I've went round this edge and around the top, and now I'm going to do the hood. So the hood was made of a chain of, let me see, one sec. It was 24 inches from there to there, which worked out as 22 squares. So I'm going to count 11, and I'm going to go right up to the middle of here and join there 11. And I'm going to sew all the way around here and down the side of the cuff on both sides. And then I'm going to sew along the hood at the top. So the hood, you fold it in half. It looks a bit awkward, but once it comes together and you sew up the dark brown seam, and that's the centre of the top. I might do it the opposite way. I might do it the coral. I'll try both ways and see which one I feel like. That's what it looks like with the hood sewn onto the back, right around and down to the front of the collar. And then I'm going to just sew the hood across the top, and that gives us our hood shape.